Let's start off the conversation by me just prefacing my opinion on who's the greatest of all time. In my opinion, Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. His efficiency, shooting 55% for most of his career. His overall field goal percentage is 50%. Only other player to do that in NBA history basically is Wilt Chamberlain. He averaged 30 for his entire career. Listen, he averaged 30 for his entire career, including the Wizard days. So his career average is 30.1 points. He dominated the league in a fashion that basically nobody has ever seen. He won 3 championships, retired, came back and won 3 championships. Listen, he had 2 three-peats. 2 three-peats. It's one thing to win a lot of championships. Like you win 5 championships. You know, like a Kobe or a Duncan or whatever the case is. But to win 6 championships, 3 in a row, retire, come back, win 3 in a row. It's unheard of, guys. It's unheard of. His dominance, his sheer dominance is ridiculous. But I just prefaced that because Daryl Morey came out. He said, by far, LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. The amount of win shares, the possibility of winning, and all the things he brings to the table statistically, he puts your team in upper echelon. And to me, that kind of logic is flawed because the thing is, even though numbers don't lie, you have to put your numbers in the context. You also have to understand the situations that you're put in. When people are saying that LeBron James elevates your team statistically wise, well, what conference was he playing in? Number one, Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, anybody, I'm not going to say anybody, but if you take a star player and you move them or shift them, they can help your team gain a lot of traction and, be imposing force. But when they're like LeBron James, he statistically brings you to a new level and you have win shares. Excuse me, but the last time I checked, the last 2 teams he played on in the East, Miami and Cleveland, they had other superstars there. So are we taking that into effect as well? Is it just LeBron James by himself and, B-list guys? Or are we talking about LeBron James statistically with 2 other Hall of Famers? Bosh and Wade could be considered for Hall of Fame induction, especially Dwayne Wade, first ballot, whatever. Bosh, I don't know that much. But if you look at Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love in Cleveland, they're 2 stars that are basically franchise players. Kyrie's a franchise player, Kevin Love is a franchise player in Minnesota. Are we taking that into account? Because when I want Daryl Morey to look at his stats and everything like that, I want him to think of a LeBron James when he was playing in Cleveland. Remember that 2007 team he took to the finals? That's the kind of LeBron James I want you to really envision of his win percentage or win shares, whatever the case is. That year, LeBron went off, and I got to give him a lot of credit for getting to the finals. But there were certain circumstances, like with Detroit or whatever the case is, I guess they just weren't prepared for that. But LeBron went off. I'm going to give him credit. But since that 2007 time, that year in 2007, it's not like he was consistently taking horrible teams to the NBA Finals. Like, his teams were good teams going forward. Like, from, I would say, 2010 to now, he's been on great teams. Well, not great teams, but good teams with good star players. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, played with Ray Allen, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. It's not like he ever played with bums since that 2007 year. Even, like, if you take out that 2007 year, when he lost to the Celtics, he took off his jersey. He was upset. His team wasn't that good. When he lost to the Orlando Magic, that's 2009 when the Magic went to the finals and got beat by the Lakers. So 2008, so since 2007 with mediocre teams. The reason I'm saying this is because we're pairing the Lakers as similar to the 2007 Cavs or 2008 Cavs or 2009 Cavs, even though the Lakers seem a little bit better. But that's kind of the comparison you want to draw. You can't say LeBron James elevates your team and you got a Dwayne Wade and a Chris Bosh. Like, that notion of thinking is ridiculous because you have 2 other franchise players that also elevate your team. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for you to draw that kind of distinction. Win shares. If you do win shares from 2007 to 2009, if you look at, or 2006 to 2009 or whatever the case is, let's talk about that. let's just talk about that, guys. You know what I'm saying? Like LeBron James, yeah, he can elevate your team or whatever the case is, but that was an Eastern Conference. And then when you look at when he didn't have two Hall of Famers, you look at when in '07 he took him to the finals. I'm not discrediting that. But after that, '08, what happened? Got beat by the Celtics. Took off your jersey. No, was that '08 or '09? Well, yeah, it was '08 or whatever. '08, took off his jersey, got beat up by Celtics or whatever. '09, I believe it was '09, yeah. You lose to the Magic, you upset about that. So, if you look at LeBron James, without two Hall of Famers, he got swept in the finals, he got beat in '08 and got beat in '09. So where's all this win shares coming? The thing is, Daryl Morey's logic is flawed because he's looking at it from a perspective of, I have two Hall of Famers. I have a Chris Paul and I have a James. I have two star players, two franchise players, two Hall of Famers. You know, you can't look at his impact on the game with two star players because that's not what it's going to be in LA. That's not what it's going to be in LA. And a lot of people have him winning 50-plus games. I think they could win 45 to 50 games. I think they could do something like that. But it's going to be incredibly tough due to the simple fact that the West is not the East. All that being said, for him to say, oh, like statistically, win shares, et cetera, is very flawed logic. Because if you look at LeBron James without two Hall of Famers or two star players, he basically can't do much besides that '07 year. Like he's glued, but he's stuck. He's stuck. That's just point blank what it is. Since 2010 to now, he's always been paired with multiple star players. Like this is gonna be reminiscent of LeBron James in '07, in '08, in '09. That's what you have to compare your numbers to. You can't just be like, well, you know, he's gonna have a strong impact or whatever. No, it's not gonna work like that. He's a great player. He is considered the greatest player in the game right now, and I don't disagree or fault anybody that feels that way. But you can't have that notion like, oh, he statistically just eclipses everybody. And the problem with his thinking, Daryl Morey's thinking, is this: you're leaving out all this, you're bringing in all the stats, but leaving one out. That's winning. When we talk about winning, let's talk about wins. Where do you win at the ultimate level? NBA Finals. Mike never lost in NBA Finals. LeBron James has lost the amount of times Michael Jordan has won in NBA Finals. So all that win share, statistics, improvement to your roster, it doesn't mean anything if it's not going to translate in the biggest stage, which is the NBA Finals. You could bring up teams he played against, this, that, and the third. He played against juggernauts or whatever case is. It's funny because people say, well, he played against tougher teams than Mike or whatever. But then they'll say, well, he beat a 73-9 team. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that he played different competition, but then say he's so great because he beat that competition. Like, you got to say, either pick one or the other. Like, either his competition was so strong, that's why I have 6 losses, or he's so great that he could beat any team, including the 73-9 team. Because if he could beat any team that's 73-9, then that argument about he's played tougher competition in the finals doesn't mean anything. You think, like, what you think? Mike played chopped liver? Karl Malone, Hall of Famer. John Stockton, Hall of Famer. Charles Barkley, Hall of Famer. Pistons, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, like New York Knicks, John Starks, Patrick Ewing. The people he had to go through? Are you kidding me? As opposed to LeBron, who teamed up with some of those guys. Mike never teamed up with a Patrick Ewing and Reggie Miller. So, like, cut all that talk. But the number one statistic that Morey always leaves out is the finals. And a lot of people always leave that out. And they're like, well, you can't judge it based on this, that, and the third. Well, if your guy is so great, what's the greatest stat? Championship stat. You lost 6 of them. So, therefore, all that other stuff means nothing. It means nothing. Like, honestly, once you win multiple championships, your regular season statistics or your win shares, your defensive win shares, that means nothing. What boils down to the end of the day, because you separated yourself. here's the thing people don't notice. You separated yourself from the ho-hum players or the players that never won a ring. Like LeBron separated himself from Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller. He's already separated himself. That stuff that Reggie Miller talks about, Chris Webber talks about, my win shares, my statistical win shares, that stuff that they'll talk about when they, Tracy McGrady, when he gets inducted in the Hall of Fame, he made a great impact, statistical win shares, et cetera, et cetera. When you got 3 championships, 2 championships, back-to-back champion, you're considered one of the greatest players ever played the game, all that gets flushed down the toilet. Nobody cares. When you're in that Kobe, Jordan, Magic, Larry level, Kareem, Bill Russell level, nobody talks about none of that garbage. All they talk about is, what did you do in the finals? And what LeBron did in the finals is he's lost way more than he's won in the finals. And that's the main stat that people need to understand. Nothing else. And it's not like he went to the finals with a bunch of bums every single year. He only went to the finals with a subpar team 1 year. 1 year. 1 year. 1 year. The other 8 or 9 times he went to the finals, he's had great talent with him. So there's no excuse to losing 6 finals. Point blank, period. I don't want to hear it. I understand. I respect his opinion because he's doing a job that I can't do. Obviously, I haven't met the qualifications yet. But when we talk about wins, this, that, and the third, that's the main stat we need to talk about. We need to get out of our head of, well, he could bring a team to 20-plus wins. Bring a team to 20-plus wins. Are we talking about with 2 other stars, or are we talking about with, just regular players? Because we are really discrediting Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving, Chris Bosh, and Kevin Love. In terms of LeBron James, people have to understand he is one of the biggest superstars in the game that ever played a game that had a lot of help. He's had a ton of help. And when I mean a ton of help, for you to get 2 franchise players to play with you, that's awesome. That's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you look at what's being done in Golden State, a lot of people hate and say they're not organic. Here's the thing about Golden State. They drafted Steph Curry. They drafted Klay Thompson. They drafted Draymond Green. It's not like these guys were franchise players already, and then they meshed and came together. The only guy that came with is Kevin Durant. But LeBron, the way that he set up the way his career is set up, he gonna get that franchise player. He gonna get that Hall of Famer, a couple Hall of Famers to come play with him. So that's what we need to take into account. So for me, Daryl Morey's logic is flawed because he's looking at it with 2 other superstars. He needs to look at it from a standpoint of LeBron James with normal players. A bunch of normal players, no studs, no stars. That's what he needs to look at it as. He needs to look at it, compare it from 07 or 07 to 2009 and how that win share whole thing came about as opposed to now. You can't have that same logic and he has 2 other Hall of Famers with him. That's like the same thing with like Kevin Durant. Like you can't say like his win shares and this, that, and the third. He's playing with these guys really. Oh, well, you can because it's not like they started out as stars. But the only reason why you got to give Kevin Durant credit for what he's doing in terms of everything else because he eclipsed his contemporaries playing. Like, when LeBron James won those finals in Miami and stuff like that, even when he won the finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dwayne Wade wasn't like he was a bum. Chris Bosh wasn't a bum. Kyrie Irving hit the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavaliers history. Kyrie Irving's averaging 25, 27 points a game. So you can't. He played at a high level, but it's not like he had guys that were just like whatever, so or whatever the case is. Like, this is kind of ridiculous. Every other stat gets broken down except for the finals. And that is mind-boggling because that is the biggest stat, point blank, period. Who knows what other analytics. Win percentage per person, I don't know. Hoops Junction, or Hoops meets Hoopla.